Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Relationship Tips with Jen. I'm really excited about today's tip. It's again another really crucial tip to get you your best relationship possible. It's really important that you do watch all of these tips because the more you know, the better relationship you'll have. And today's tip is going to be about your fight, flight, or freeze response. The reason why this tip is so important and so crucial in your relationship is because this is an anxiety response. I'm going to be talking about what happens to you when you get into a fight or when you get into a really uncomfortable situation, and maybe why sometimes it's not always easy to have conversation. But first I'm gonna tell you why we have this response. So I'm gonna give you a quick example. Let's just say that you're in the woods and maybe you're up alone and you were camping, and then all of a sudden a giant bear comes into your campground. Now we've been taught that when bears come into the campground, don't run away from them. Obviously you don't want to go after them. You sort of have to freeze and play dead, right? A lot of animals play dead as sort of this defense response. The reason why we play this response is because our sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our bodies that goes into play when we are frightened or scared, it's our stress response. So our sympathetic nervous system starts to operate and our bodies go into a defense. We freeze, we protect ourselves. Because in that instance, we know that by freezing, we have the most chance of getting out of there alive, right? We can't outrun the bear, we can't attack the bear and overpower the bear. So instead we freeze and hope that the bear ignores us thinking that we're dead, and we get away alive. So there is a reason why we have these responses. Another example is a fight response. We fight when we believe that we can actually overpower this person who we're fighting. Our brains have this ability to protect ourselves when there is danger. The thing is, now in our relationship, there's often not a lot of physical danger, and our brains still act the same way. They still act as if there is a bear in front of us and we have to figure out if we're going to fight, fly, or freeze. And when that occurs, it's usually during a fight or it's in the beginning of a fight, right? So in therapy, we talk a lot about triggers. What's triggering you and what's your response to that trigger? So depending on what your response is to that trigger is the thing that's going to happen when you're in a fight or about to fight. So if you feel like this is something that you can get away from, or you have to run away from it because it is so scary, that's going to be your fly response. If you feel like you can win this argument, really win by pushing and by fighting, then you're gonna fight. So again, we all do different things. Sometimes we do all three, sometimes we just do one. It really just depends on the person and the situation. Instead of doing that, I am going to give you a little piece of information that I hope you take away and practice. The only way that we can really overcome these responses is if we learn how to be comfortable when we're uncomfortable. And I say this all the time to my clients, being comfortable when you're uncomfortable. And that means that if my normal response is to run away, then I need to, instead of listening to my sympathetic nervous system, I need to listen to the front of my brain. And the front of my brain is basically the more developed part of my brain. That's the part that is reason, and that is the part that is responsible for logic. So in a moment when I'm really scared, if I can get the front of my brain to say, hey, look, you're really uncomfortable right now. But the more that you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, the more that this will get easier and the more you'll be able to change your response. The reason why that actually happens is because our brains are always striving to protect itself, but to also get better. And that's why we are able to create new habits. It's why we're able to change ourselves and change some of the things that we do, because we're creating new circuitry in our brain all the time and adapting to different situations. All right, so just a quick wrap up from today. I told you all about your anxiety response, the fight, flight, or freeze response, why that comes on, and what to do when that happens when you're in the middle of an uncomfortable situation. If you have any questions, as always, comment below. If you want more of these tips, continue to feed them to me, and I will respond as always, and I will see you next week. Bye.